Who was Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro? We will be answering that question today. It's an interesting yet scary story.
It is. First of all, welcome to Myth, Legends, and Truth. And today we're going to try to give you guys the answer to that question, right? So tell us a little more about Gutierrez.
Well, if you guys haven't heard about her, this story is actually famous. It took place in Spain. So she was a teenager living on the south side, South Madrid, in a place called Vallecas.
Vallecas.
It's an interesting story. It was made into a film by Netflix,
right?
Yeah,
okay.
They named it Veronica. Based on this true story, and it's very famous. It's famous in Spain, and the reason why it's so famous is because she died, and her death is still unexplained. But not just because of that, it's also the first case of paranormal activity that was ever documented by the police.
Wow.
Over there.
Wow. So a little background how this whole thing started, right? Some story says that she was trying to get in contact with her best friend, boyfriend that had died in a motorcycle accident, right? Others says that she was trying to get in contact with her stepfather or dad.
Well, the story is that she was with a friend,
okay,
or a group of friends. In their school, they went down to the basement, and they were using a ouija board to try to contact dead boyfriend. One of her friends, the boyfriend had passed away in a motorcycle accident. And she was good friends with him. So some versions, they definitely start with her and her friends trying to get in contact with this boy, but instead ended up contacting someone else or something else that she thought was her late father.
What's interesting is that this whole ritual thing was interrupted supposedly by a teacher, but the group describes seeing strange smoke coming out of Estefania's mouth and nose.
Well, what happened was that they were using the Ouija board, and according to the group, the black smoke was being emitted by the Ouija board, or maybe the movable piece.
Yeah.
Yes, it was interrupted by a teacher. The students, the group said at that point they had noticed that the black smoke had gone up her nose and in her mouth.
Wow.
And the teacher was upset, finding them playing with the Ouija board in the basement. They weren't supposed to be there. And apparently the teacher broke the board.
Oh. Wow. So the crazy thing is that so she died 6 months after that. And during those 6 months, Estefania started suffering from seizures and hallucinations, right? To which it's kind of weird for me, right? Like to hear that, because so many people, when I was younger, I was not even allowed to touch a Ouija board or anything like that. Say that again.
A Ouija board.
A Ouija board. I wasn't even allowed to touch one or anything like that. And hearing, reading about this story, it just, now I know why.
Well, you don't know what you're contacting. You don't know, like I said, what you're going to come in contact with, because whatever she came in contact with probably was not her late father. Whatever she came in contact with was far more sinister.
Yeah, I mean, at times I read that she used to go out in a rage. She used to bark, which is kind of weird. Or would tell her parents that she was seeing evil things, shadows walking past her room at night.
So she became a totally different person according to her family and her friends after the seance. Obviously, for those who have used the Ouija board, usually there's an opening prayer and a closing prayer, which obviously they didn't get to do that closing prayer because they were interrupted by the teacher. So some would believe and say that, because they weren't able to close that portal, they just left that open. Maybe she was possessed by something. Maybe something was following her around. But physically, there were a lot of unexplained things happening to her. So, like you mentioned, the hallucinations, the odd behavior, insomnia. She at one point, she did attack her siblings.
Wow. I read that her parents took her to go see a doctor, but none of them ever found out what was going on with her. But it's one of those things that I don't think they could figure that out if she's possessed or anything like that. Because there's nothing out there that could, you could do an X-ray and will tell you if you're possessed or not.
No, and it would, it's odd. There are a lot of mental health issues out there, psychological issues, and at one point, can you determine whether it's a mental health issue, a psychological issue, or if it's something spiritual, if it's, from the paranormal. So kind of going back to her experiences, not only was she having insomnia and hallucinations, but she was also suffering from seizures. It was, a condition that she had not been diagnosed with, or that she did not have before. She dabbled with the Ouija board.
Yeah.
So I think her family, firmly believed that her death was caused by the Ouija board.
Yeah, then they say that they were having some issues still after she passed in the house.
Well, we haven't quite made it to that point yet. She was definitely going through all these experiences. So she was talking about, while she was still alive, seeing all these shadow figures. The shadow figures were asking them to come with her. She was seeing and hearing all these scary things, having doors open and close, crucifix flip upside down, all these kinds of things. And if you watch the movie, in the movie, she had a feeling, or she knew that she was gonna die.
Oh wow.
So that was kind of the scary part too. Now I don't know if that part was true, or if that was just something, added to the movie. But yeah, it did take, I think you said over the following 6 months she was suffering by all these things, but there was a period where there was like 3 days of these nonstop, violent attacks, and things were just getting worse and worse, and she had attacked her siblings.
You would start to think, wonder did she even commit suicide or anything like that, being that she was going through so much.
Well, they said that after she violently attacked her sister, she went into maybe an epileptic episode, or like a catatonic kind of state, where she was taken to the hospital in a state of a coma, and she died that night. Now there was an autopsy that was done that failed to identify the reason why she died the way she did.
So there was never any cause of death?
There was no specific cause of death. It was just mentioned. It was just stated that it was, a sudden and suspicious death. I mean, she was a healthy teenager before
this whole thing happened.
That whole thing happened. Now the crazy stuff is that it doesn't end with her death. So that's kind of like where you were getting into, whereas before it seemed like it was kind of isolated to her.
Right.
She was noticing all these things. After her death, her family started experiencing those things as well.
Yeah, including the door slamming in the house, right? Appliance switching on and off. Mysterious...
faint whispering.
Yeah, which is insane. Can you imagine that? And... once they moved out, apparently all these things came to a halt. Everything stopped, and they were able to continue their regular life.
Yeah, before they moved out, you had all this. Before they moved out, yeah, they had the hauntings, the slamming doors, the electrical appliances going on and off. Lights busting, the whispers. All that scary stuff going on. The crazy thing is that about 2 years after her death, there was a photo of her hanging in the living room that caught fire. Now, nothing else in the area caught fire, only the face of, on the photo. Just the part of the photo that had her face was burned. Nothing else. So where, this is interesting is that, kind of moving backward, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit with, her 2-year anniversary. Before that, the family, experiencing everything that was going on in the house with the furniture and everything, they were so scared, they didn't know what was happening, that they just left the house and called the police. That was the only thing that they can think of doing. Now, the police do arrive, and this is where they end up documenting what they saw. So they had one of what's his name, an inspector, Jose Negri, probably, is that how you would pronounce it?
Let's go
I hope
with
I
that.
pronounced it right.
Jose Negri.
So him and his team arrived to the house at that time, and they found the parents and the children outside the house. It was raining. They were completely terrified because of everything that was going on inside the house. According to the police report, you had the inspector and 2 other agents that entered the apartment. In their written document, they actually describe doors of a wardrobe that were opening violently, despite being closed and locked. The door almost hit one of the agents in the face as it was opening. They heard the loud noises that the family were talking about. They saw what seemed like claw marks across the wall where a crucifix had been ripped off the wall. And apparently some strange brown slime that had formed on the bedside table. So, they found the crucifix was torn from the wall, the claw marks, the doors opening and closing, the sounds. I mean, all this, that sounds crazy. I mean, it sounds scary. And then I'm sure, it must have been, I know the family must have been suffering and going through all of this, the loss of their daughter, all these unexplained, just phenomena going on. It must have felt good, though, in a way, to have that validation where, the cops come in, they saw, and they witnessed it, and they documented it.
It's I don't know, it's a whole scary thing. Like, I definitely don't want to put myself in that position, and I would not allow our kids to be messing around one of those boards at all. They're so scary. So you guys know, I'm actually putting some of the good pictures and stuff like that. So you guys, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see the actual, which I'm showing Ari right now, the actual picture of her face being burned in the
burnt picture.
The burnt picture.
And also, one thing I forgot to mention too, that it was in the police report as well, supposedly, was a dramatic change in temperature. The temperature had gone down drastically in what seemed to be the most haunted area of the house, which was the bathroom. I thought it was her room, but according to some of the reports, it was the bathroom.
There's limits to these things.
And so the agents just, left the apartment in a hurry.
Yeah, so you guys are going to see some freaky, crazy pictures, but are taken from, it's actually from Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro, that's her real name. In the movie, I guess they named her Veronica.
Yeah.
But that's her actual name, and looks like a very nice young girl. Maybe just got caught up in the wrong thing, trying to help her friend out, and unfortunately,
just that innocent curiosity, But, you know, certain things, I mean, you just have to be so careful with. And I think some people try to debunk the story. So the mom, after all of her eyewitness, her reports, they said that she underwent, you know, a psychological evaluation.
Wow.
Which, you know, showed signs of emotional instability and anxiety and things like that. But I mean, she lost her teenage daughter in an unexplained way. These things were happening in the house, which were obviously experienced not just by her, but also, you know, biased party, you know, the police
all the family
department.
members.
Well, the other family members, but, you know, the police department, that, you know, they have, it's the police department. They're, you know, what do they have to gain? You know, 3 agents falsifying a report and just going along with what she said. Who's gonna do that? You know.
Right.
So that's a legal document per se. It is. You know, whatever the police document. Like that's a legal document. If there was a crime or something that happened, that document would be presented in court. So, you know, people took that part seriously, and those that were trying to debunk the mom, you know, that wasn't taken too seriously just because she had such a big document, you know, so much backup when it came to that, so much eyewitnesses that, you know, they were unable to debunk it that easily.
Wow, they should have done an exorcist on her.
Well, I don't think I don't know that. I don't know all the details of the story, but I don't know that she told her family what she had done. You know, maybe she did. Maybe they didn't believe her. Maybe she was too scared and kept it to herself. I mean, those details, I really don't know. We can probably, I'm sure, maybe look into that a little bit further.
Yeah, so yeah, continue looking at the pictures, because as you're watching this, you're going to be seeing a lot of cool pictures from the family members. There's a picture where the mother's holding, you know, the picture of Veronica. That's kind of what Netflix named her, but her actual name is Estefania.
Yeah.
You know, with a picture burning. You see a picture with the dad also showing the same picture. The sisters in one of the pictures, you see her true face. You see her when she was younger and all these things. So it's an amazing tale. Is it a tale? It's a, you know, who knows what it is, but
yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it's pretty scary. Just the fact, you know, to even consider that something like that would be true. And I mean, how can you deny? It is the first case, I think, in Spain, from what they said, that was documented by the police.
Wow. Well, we definitely want to thank you guys for being a part of us and watching this video. And if you're gonna, hopefully soon we're gonna start. What's that thing we're gonna start now?
The
Spotify, is it? iHeartRadio. That's one thing that we're gonna start doing now, so that if you're driving, just relaxing, do a little more podcasts. But if you definitely do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. And we're taking requests, or anybody or any story you want us to, you know, go right ahead and embark. We'll do it. I mean, this is for my wife. She loves these things, so I'm just happy to be a part of it and spend this time with her.
Yep. And if you know about this story and you've researched the story and there's any details that we might have missed or anything you wanted to add, definitely comment. Let us know.
Yeah. Be part of the discussion. Thank you guys. Catch you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned. We're releasing a lot of fresh new content. All right. See you guys in the next one.
Bye.